To get to our next stop, we'll head from San Jose to Cupertino, to another garden spot. Now, folks don't come here to look at oaks and maples. Instead, they're searching for family trees. There's plenty to leaf through on the DeAnza College campus at the California History Center. At first glance, it might seem rather grandiose. In fact, when architect Willis Polk designed this building back in 1895, he wanted to recreate the elegance of Louis XIV's France. The Trianon, as it's called, was the country play place for San Francisco financier Charles Baldwin and his wife Ella. You can still see some of their lavish furniture on display here. Well, back in the early 1900s, the Baldwins hosted lots of dinner parties for their friends. Today, folks come to feast on history.
This is Yvonne Jacobson, who's president of the board of the California History Center, which is what?
It's an organization devoted to the recording of history and to bringing that history to as wide a public as possible.
This may seem like a frivolous question, but why is it important to know about your history? What's so exciting about history?
I think that those of us who are ignorant of our past are really ignorant of ourselves, and especially in California, which is known for its population that has come from everywhere else. There is a lack of a sense of roots, and by knowing the history of the community in which one lives, one has a better sense of self.
The California History Center helps visitors look back through a variety of programs. You'll find exhibits like this one on the early Chinese immigrants to the Bay Area. And if you want to look up your own family's place in local history, there's a library full of books, tapes, and photos on the early days of Santa Clara County and the Bay Area.
You obviously do this on a volunteer basis.
Right.
What got you involved?
In 1979, I was teaching at the Humanities Department here at DeAnza College, not too far from the building, and I recognized that my elderly father did not have long to live. And I decided it was very important for me to take leave of absence from teaching and to focus on his stories. He had been a farmer here in Santa Clara County all his life. And I began to think that the story, our personal story, stood for a history of the valley farms. As you know, this county was one of the premier agricultural counties of California in fruit growing and fruit canning and fruit preservation. Right up until the high-tech firms took over in the 1950s and 1960s. And so I began to think, well, our farm might serve as a focus for telling a much wider story.
This wasn't always Silicon Valley?
No, Silicon Valley, in fact, is very recent and possibly just a passing fad, another passing fad. In fact, most likely it won't last forever, and something new will come to replace it. So I think those in the middle of Silicon Valley ought to have that historic awareness so that they don't become arrogant in the sense of who they are.
To get a different perspective on the Silicon Valley before the days of computer chips, there's an exhibit on labor in Santa Clara County that runs through mid-March. The California History Center is open Monday through Saturday. Admission is free. It's located at DeAnza College, right next to the Flint Center in Cupertino.